When attempting to answer the question, where does the world come from, there are two approaches we can take. One is the fairly straightforward approach, which gives the universe a particular beginning and explaining how it unfolded from that beginning. So we have the Big Bang Theory. The universe began about 15 billion years ago, and it developed. Processes took place, galaxies formed, and so on. Then we've got the Earth forming, and then life on the Earth forming, and then the process of evolution, which brings us right up to this present moment. The other way we can answer this question is, well, how do we actually experience the world? How do we actually perceive the world? How does this world come to be? It means, how do we know there is such a thing as the world? What is the process of perception? The initial assumption is that there's actually a world out there to be experienced. But when the physicists start looking into it, what is the reality that they uncover? The reality that they uncover is a mathematical reality. It's a reality which is no more than a model, and that model is expressed in terms of mathematical equations. So, where does mathematics exist? Is mathematics out there, or is it in here? Is the reality of the world mathematical? This seems to be the assumption of the physicists, and if so, we cannot argue that the world is something out there. This is a debate which I don't think has been properly resolved about where mathematics exists. Is mathematics a function of our mind, or is it something out there which we're discovering? Anyway, the whole notion of in there or out there doesn't seem to apply to mathematics. It's something separate, isn't it? It's an interesting philosophical topic. But in reading the Yoga Vasistha, we can't be fixated with the idea of something out there. In fact, that's what's holding us back, this discrimination we make between in here and out there. We need to get beyond that discrimination. We need to get beyond the discrimination that what is out there is real and what is in here is imaginary. We have this prejudice, don't we? It's a modern cultural one. It's a modern Western cultural prejudice, which is reinforced in the name of science. Reality, imagination. It's not a prejudice that the Yoga Vasistha is susceptible to, so let's read on with that in mind. We're getting a description of the world, the universe. The Loka mountains are the boundary of the Earth plane. And the Earth plane, I suspect, doesn't just relate to the planet Earth. I think these Loka mountains exist somewhere out in space, and I fancifully suggest that they could be thought of as the asteroid belt. It's a question of whether you want to accommodate this description or not. Beyond that is the great spatial pit, filled with total darkness, though something exists in it here and there. Well, that could just be the stars and galaxies, which, compared to the emptiness between them, they're just little somethings existing here and there. Because the stellar sphere is at a considerable distance, there seems to be some light somewhere and some darkness elsewhere. These stars are at a very great distance from the Loka mountains. The entire stellar sphere, with the exception of the pole star, constantly revolves around its own axis. It's actually quite a remarkable description, this. This was written at least 1,000 years ago. Of course, the pole star is the tip of the axis, so it doesn't revolve. But all this is non-different from the notion that arises in pure consciousness. So this is a notion that's arisen in consciousness. Like the notion of a Big Bang, like the notion of evolution, all these arise in consciousness. We're not getting hung up on giving it an external scientific reality. People that often consider themselves to be scientific are quite fixated in the idea that reality is out there and is pretty well fixed, although it's not a very scientific point of view at all. Beyond the worlds of the earth plane, whose boundaries are the Loka mountains, the stellar sphere appears something like the skin of a fruit. However, all this is but the firm notion that arises in the infinite consciousness. It should not be taken that these worlds exist as reality. In other words, we're not getting caught up in the notion that this is some kind of objective reality, objective scientific reality. It's scientific in the sense that we'll find out in a minute, but it's not scientific in the sense that it's usually understood. Beyond even this stellar sphere, there is another sphere twice its size. That too is illumined in part and is sunk in darkness elsewhere. All this is enclosed in two skull caps, as it were, one which is above and the other is below, and between them is space. The universe, which is a cosmic circle, is illumined by the sun and stars. What is above and what is below in all this? Rising, falling, moving, or remaining steady, all these are notions that arise in consciousness. None of these exist in truth. This is true. This is the principle of relativity, isn't it? What appears to be stationary to one observer is moving from the point of view of another observer. Rising, falling, moving, or remaining steady. Do these things have a fixed reality, even from a scientific point of view? It's all relative, isn't it? It's all to do with perception. It's all to do with notions that we have. None of these have any absolute existence. They're all notional. This is our reality.